Awesome. And this one too? Right. Alright, you say when. Beacock! Digivolve! Hurry! So welcome. There you go. A lot of shows. It's really funny, I go to conventions and people bring video games and stuff. Not really TV shows, but sometimes video games that I've recorded. But it was so long ago, and it was only like a one-day record, that I don't even remember it. And that's really fun, because I'm like, wow, it's like a time warp. You're like, I was part of this, but I have no memory of it. So, years ago, when I was living in the Bay Area, I was an actor, like when I was 10 years old, doing plays and stuff. And I was in the worst rated film ever, pretty much, Howard the Duck, if you've ever heard of that movie. I was a background extra, but I was also in the music video, which is really cool. And I got to work on that with Leah Thompson and stuff for about a week. It was really fun in San Francisco. And I worked on Hoffa with Jack Nicholson, which was really cool. But, you know, all background work and kind of like cutting my teeth on being an actor and stuff. Going to school, going to college. And, but I always knew that I wanted to do voice. And I was singing, playing piano and all that stuff. In fact, when I finally did get to LA, I was in this doo-wop group. There's me with some really awesome looking hair. I mean, that's really embarrassing. So singing actually really helped my voiceover career, and it continues to help, especially if you ever have to do things like a sound-alike or, you know, match pitch or whatever. You understand musically how to do that. So I'm really glad that I know how to play piano and know how to sing and all that stuff. So I moved to LA, and I'd done a bunch of theater and stuff in the Bay Area, and I moved to LA, and everyone's like, well, we don't care about theater, you know. At that point, they were like, have you been on the Cosby Show? I mean, that's all that mattered. Have you done television? And I hadn't really done that much, so I got to work, you know. I needed a job because I needed to pay my bills, and right after the San Francisco earthquake, gosh, I can't remember what year that was. I think that's when I got this show. But I decided I was going to move home because I wasn't getting any work unless I booked this job, and the job was at Universal Studios, Hollywood, in the Beetlejuice Rockin' Graveyard Review. And that's me as Phantom of the Opera, and it was as embarrassing as it looks. But it was a great job. I mean, this is back in, gosh, 1993, I guess? So, who was born in 1993? Great. Really made me feel old. But it was an awesome job. Imagine back then, I'm this new kid to LA, and I'm working in a theme park, and I'm doing 5 shows a day. We were making like $50 a show, so it's $250 a day back in 1993. You don't even pay that much now. And I would work for 3 days and then have 4 days off. It's a great gig. So in that other time, I would do plays and audition for things, student films and stuff like that. But this job actually, you know, shipped out a bunch of big stars. We've got Eden Espinosa, who did Wicked on Broadway, and this guy, I don't know if you recognize Wayne Brady. You might see Wayne Brady on television. That's him as Wolfman. That's us at lunch. We decided that at lunch we would just eat in the park and not pay attention to the costume rules, and so we would just go in the park and eat with the guests and stuff. So Wayne was a pal of mine, and one year I did a zombie thing for Halloween. That's kind of me in the back, in the tuxedo, singing and dancing as a zombie. Little did I know that now I would have a zombie series. So this job kind of like propelled me to support doing all the other auditions and stuff that I wanted to do when I was living in LA. But the big job that really got me my union card and allowed me to come to LA and be prepared to audition for TV and film was Les Misérables. I got to do the national tour of that for 1.5 years in San Francisco. I was 23 years old, totally scared. I mean, I was afraid of everything. There's all these big stars that were in it and stuff, I mean, Broadway stars and stuff. And I had just come off doing community theater and extra work and stuff like that, so to get this big show, I was really terrified. I remember we would rehearse in San Francisco and have to go over the Bay Bridge to rehearsal. and they had a billboard that was all white. And as we're driving over, like 6, 7 weeks of rehearsal, every day we'd go, and there'd be a part of a letter on the billboard. Didn't know what it was, and then I began to realize they were spelling out Les Misérables. Coming to San Francisco, first, second national tour, whatever. And the minute I realized that it was Les Mis, I would get sick every time driving over the bridge. Like, oh, I'm so nervous. Like, I'm going to screw this job up. But I didn't, and it was really fun. A friend of mine, Barbara Epstein, who I worked with at Universal Studios doing the Beetlejuice show, she's produced a lot of stuff. She wrote a musical animated movie, I guess it was, for Nickelodeon called Globe Hunters. And they were looking for someone to play the role of Trevor the parrot, the talking parrot. It's a guy, a parrot, who was raised in a science lab, and all he did was watch television. So it was a lot of sound-alikes and imitating people on TV and stuff. And so I auditioned for that, and it went to Nickelodeon for approval. And gosh, it took 5 months before it ever came back that I booked the job. That was my first ever animation. Not my first anime, but my first animation job. And there I am with John Cavanaugh, who now writes all the musical for Sophia the First on Disney. And that's him teaching me. I mean, what kind of shirt is that, first of all, that I'm wearing? I don't know. But it was great, and this was also highly pressurized, working for Nickelodeon. And while I was confident in everything and in what I could do, it was still a brand new world to me. And you have to kind of like pretend like you know what you're doing until you learn how to do it. It's the whole fake it till you make it kind of thing. So I was doing a lot of faking. And that went really well. We got Chaka Khan, if you guys know Chaka Khan, she was in it. And Willem Dafoe, like a really bizarre cast, was in that little animated show. You can still find it. Google or whatever, Globe Hunters, it's called. And it's probably on sale for like $3.99 on eBay or something like that. But for that show, we also had, this was my very first session, sitting down with actors, was with these two guys. Now, you won't know who they are. This is Carl Reiner and Sid Caesar. And they pretty much were the pioneers of American television. They were the comedians back in the day of TV. And they're just brilliant. Carl Reiner is Rob Reiner's father, if you guys know who Rob Reiner is. And Sid Caesar, who is over here, I mean, he looks like he's probably on his last breath, and that's what he looked like in the studio. So he came in, he's like tottering around, and people are bringing him in. He sits down in front of the microphone and the music stand with the script, which he'd never seen before. And the minute they say action, he just turned on. Old school New York Catskill comedy, riffing and vamping and ad-libbing and stuff. And I'm brand new, and I'm sitting between the two of them, just like legs shaking, and the papers are rustling and stuff. And I'm just vamping my way, trying to follow the script, because they're just riffing back and forth like an old comedy team that had done it for years. So I did fine, but it was really amazing to be with people like that. Yeah, that was really crazy. So I did a play after this. I started doing a lot more theater in LA. And I did a play called Fully Committed, which is about this kind of frantic, frazzled New York reservation clerk guy who's handling the reservations for a restaurant down in the basement. And it's a one-man show that originated in New York, and I booked it here in LA. And I played 38 different people with no makeup and no costumes. Just like, doing this voice and then going back to this voice and changing your body position back and forth for an hour and a half. I mean, it was insane. And so, at the time, the director of this anime that was very popular at the time, my friend Mary Elizabeth McGlynn, who I had worked with at Universal, she was the Bride of Frankenstein with an amazing voice. She calls me up and she goes, "Look, I saw your show, and I think that you can do voices." I'm like, "I hope so, otherwise the show's going to close." And she says, "So I think I want you to come in. There's this role of this young kid, and I want you to do it, audition for it." And again, I went in and kind of not really knowing what I was doing, because it was a different vibe with this anime than it was for the original animation for Globe Hunters, you know. So this was like reading the script with the beeps and all that stuff. So I went in, did it. I think I did a good job, and I sounded good and stuff, but you just never know. And it was, again, one of those situations where the director can like you, the engineer can like you, this producer, whatever, but then it goes off into Never Never Land, and with the network and this person and that person trying to approve you, and you never know what's going on. So, months later, they called and they said, you got the part, and this was the part. Now that you were born, sorry, I forgot it was so long. Like, we get it, Digimon, right? Digimon! So, really excited. This was a big deal to me. My mom's like, oh yay, my son's not gonna be homeless. I'm like, hey, the jury's still out. So it was a great part, really fun. This was Takato. And have you guys ever seen Digimon Season 3? Yeah, a few of you. It's great. I mean, he was so funny. The show was so well written and well directed. And, you know, Season 1 and 2, and a lot of other anime has all the fighting and the battles and stuff. And this did, of course, as well. It has all that. But it had a lot of really good emotional, interpersonal relationships, great comedy, good translation, and it was a blast to do. But the first 2 or 3 weeks while I was working on this show, we were still on tape. We hadn't gone over to Pro Tools, the digital platform for editing and stuff that people use now. So when you do your line, like beep, 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 you know, hey, Kyomon, you know, my very own Digimon, and you're doing that. If you don't do it at the right time, it doesn't lock with the picture. So they can't go, whatever, and they do a thing now where they can expand it or they can compress it by like a frame, you know, so if you kind of screw it up, they can fix it. Back then they couldn't, so I had to be perfect. Well, I wasn't perfect, I'm still not perfect. So it was nerve-wracking. And then about 2 weeks later, they go, we got this new system, it's this new magic thing called Pro Tools, it's digital. And so I got to kind of learn how to do that while the engineer was also learning how to do it. So he hated it, and it was really hard for engineers to learn how to move things now. So while he was futzing and trying to figure out how to work this program, I could figure out how to do my job. So we kind of helped each other in that respect. But he was a cool little character. I loved him. I did 1 season of him. And that's really, I mean, I didn't have an agent at the time. I don't have an agent now. I'll talk about that. And, but the people I met through this job, from the place where I recorded it, the director, the producer, and the fans and everything, this is what kind of propelled me to continue to get work. So we love Takato and his little goggles. There's actually a little Takato action figure that's really hard to find. And I have 2 of them. I'm selling one, because I'm not stupid. Then season 4 came along, and everyone said, "Ah, we hate Digimon Frontiers." But I played Beacock, Keeper of the Book. And that was a fun little season. I was just glad. I'm like, hey man, I'm on a roll. I got 2 anime now, you know? And it was great. The show was weird. It was not the same. It was not directed by Mary. It was in a different studio. At that time, I was working for Saban, who had been doing, what are they called? The people with the masks and they fight live action Power Rangers. Yeah, Power Rangers. And so they kept moving their studios. For some reason, something was going on with Saban, so I would travel like 30 miles to go to a session, and then it moved, and I would go down the street, and then it would go over the hill. And in LA, everything's an hour away, wherever you live. So commute was always terrible and stuff. But Beacock was cool. I had a good time, and then I kind of took a break for a while. And don't think I chose to take a break. It was not a self-imposed break. Just things weren't happening. Did other jobs like Blue Dragon, played Andropov in Blue Dragon for a while. Zatch Bell. Did anyone ever heard of Zatch Bell? Really? Really? 2 people have seen Takato and everyone knows Zatch Bell. So I don't get it. I played Bianco. I played Bianco, a frog. Okay, so he was cool, it was really fun, but I was still new. So I go in, I guess maybe after 5-6 months, and I'm reading the script and we're reading it down, and I read the description. It's like, shoots firecracker into Bianco's face, who flies into the air, explodes. So, you know, it's like when you're on a TV show and they're like, and you read like the soap opera and you're like, oh, and then my character dies, and then the producer's like, yeah, it's really been great having you as Bianco, but he is gone. So that's how my first character died. Little did I know that in anime, it was going to happen forever. Everyone's going to die. Sometimes they can come back, sometimes they won't, but little Bianco died. Yeah, it was sad. Then I did a show called I Dot and Jump, which I don't remember. I played someone named Kiyoshi and Arthur. In Duel Masters, anyone remember that? Yeah?
Yeah.
This is so cool. That's awesome. So I played a character named Boy George. Not the Karma Chameleon guy, but Boy George. And I also played 4 other people, like interstitial, smaller roles, but they were there. So there were times in the script where all these characters would talk to each other. So that was a trick, because while I had tried to make them sound different, of course, when they're right next to each other, you really have to be careful. You have to be sure that the end of one word of this sentence did not sound at all like the beginning of the next word. Because even though the flaps were moving on screen, you know, people that watch anime, they're not stupid, they know. So that was really tough, but challenging, obviously. That was a cool one. Then came Battle B-Daman. No one? Yeah? Did you guys have the toys? The little marble shooter things?
Yes.
I still got that too, so look for that on eBay. So Battle B-Daman was huge in New Zealand. And that actually got me to New Zealand twice. I went out there and did a live TV show and went to the Comic-Con Armageddon Expo, and it was really, really, really fun. But in America, it wasn't a huge success. But that was fun. Yamato Delgado, who was like a cat or something, you know, like a boy who was really a cat. I don't know. None of it makes sense, actually. I guess that's it. So, and before this one came up, another one I mentioned today, Boba 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 Bo. Oh. Yeah? You guys, I mean, there were some serious drugs in production on this show. Like, what are they thinking? It was so weird. I played a toothbrush. I played the number 4. I was like, there was the other toothbrush. It was so bizarre. And I played a utility character, meaning that I would come in and all the leads were already cast and stuff, and I would come in and I would wrap up everybody else. So each session I would play quite a few people. And Michael Sorch, the director who was also in it, he'd say, okay, Brian, you're going to be, this is the number 4. And I'm like, okay, well, how many lines does number 4 have? Because it sounds like a voice that I might want to use for the number 9. Like, you know, I would have to find out how many loops it's called, how many lines per character, so I would know how to use my best voice for the character who had the most lines. And it didn't always work that way. You would beg for, like, can this person be from the South? Or can this person be from New York? Because you had to figure out ways to add some kind of teeth to the character to make it sound different. You know, so every character didn't sound like this. So that's a lot of good stuff that was happening for me. And then this one came along that was really, really cool. Sakon Ukon. Now, these were throat thrashers. Man, these were hard guys to do. Sakon was already, you know, like this. And then Ukon was even worse, you know. And they would scream and fight, and it was just like a bloodbath inside my throat. I mean, and then I think, I don't know that much, I think they died and then they came back, and then I know that I recently did a video game, so I think they were completely gone or something, but then I got to revisit them on a video game not too long ago, so that was kind of cool. But I tell you, I don't know the people that spotted it. You know what spotting is? When a translator will watch the animation and they will spot where all the lines are and they'll write down, okay, so Sakon says this at this time code, blah, blah, blah. They kept getting them confused because they pretty much look the same. So the person who would spot it would say, okay, Sakon's line, and then we'd be in the studio trying to figure it out. It's like, which one is Sakon, which is Ukon, and sometimes we'd just be like, it doesn't really matter. Let's just make this line kind of sound like both of them. So that was really cool, but just a weird, it's probably one of the weirdest characters that I ever got to play. That was neat. And then this guy. We love this guy.
Oh, I know him.
You're all so beautiful for being here. Yumichika, man. So, you guys have seen Bleach, right? So, what is that thing, because I'm sure you know more than I do, you've got your regular show, you know, the regular story, and at the end, for like 30 seconds, they go crazy, and they talk in different voices. It's kind of like a recap, or, you know, next week on Bleach, and then all the voices are weird, and people are talking rapid fire. Does anyone know the name for that? No? Do you know what I'm talking about? I guess it's the recap. But they totally, like they have your characters do things that you normally wouldn't do, or behave in such a way that you normally wouldn't behave. So the hardest part was to have the voice of Yumichika, who was like this, to try to be, hey, let's all go to the park! You know, like, so to try to match the flaps, it was really tough to keep that kind of voice with this manic animation. But he was really cool, and continues to be, and there's some really funny people on Twitter that use different forms of Yumichika as their handle. And everything is like, you know, I'd kill you if you weren't so beautiful, or, you know, you're too ugly, blah, blah, blah. They're awesome. Maybe scary, I don't know, I haven't met them in person, so. Gormiti. I doubt that any of you, well, no, it's on Hulu or Netflix now, but this was a weird show. This is an original animation, so we were all in the room together. Wally Wingert, who was the announcer for The Tonight Show, Sam Riegel, a bunch of other people did it. This was a show that aired in Italy, dubbed in English, produced by the French. Sure, absolutely, makes complete sense. So when we were recording this, and we were making union rate, so whatever that rate was, I basically could go to work on Friday for 2 hours, and that's all I needed to do the whole week to survive at that time. So that was a great little job. And we got to do 52 episodes, so we worked every week for 3 years. It was like being on a TV show, financially and family-wise and stuff. It was really great. Then it disappeared and died. But Ribbles was great. He was a little lizard. Then I also played another person who I can't even remember his name. Anyway, finally we got to see it, because for the longest time we could not see the show unless we went to Italy. And that's, you know, we're not making that much money. But it was a fun little show, and you can see it on Hulu. I'm not sure how it translates, and I don't know what it's about. I can't really tell you. It's not dinosaurs. It's kids that transform into the 4 elements, kind of like. It's like earth and water. It's not earth, wind, and fire. That's a different thing. But it was really kind of fun. So I'm doing voiceover, and I'm in LA, and trying to still do TV and film, because that's ultimately what I wanted to do, and what I still do want to do. So I booked a show for NBC by the producers of Mad TV, if you guys remember that TV show. Yeah, Mad TV. So these crazy people, they had their summer off, and so they wanted to do a new show. This show was called The Rerun Show. And we would remake old shows from, I think, the 70s, Bewitched. Then we also did things like Married with Children, The Partridge Family, what's the one? Saved by the Bell, Facts of Life. So this is me as Uncle Arthur in Bewitched on set, and she's playing Samantha. It was a blast. It was so much fun. But the network, NBC, didn't really know where to put us. So we would record two episodes a week, and we only aired on NBC for about 3.5 weeks because they kept juggling our schedule. So, Mom, I love you too. There you go. So we were like supposed to be on Thursday or whatever. We came on after Seinfeld. which was a great spot to be in. So we retained a lot of their audience and stuff. But then it was summer, so everything's in repeats and all that stuff. So they would throw us in without us being in the TV guide, which was really popular back then. And no one would know that we were there. So at the end of 3.5 weeks, we had kind of like run the course of everything that we had shot, and we didn't get picked up. And the producers had no need to keep the show going because they went back to Mad TV. So I thought I was going to be this huge star from this TV show. Everything was, I was doing the upfronts at NBC and interviews, and I was in TV Guide and Entertainment Weekly and all that stuff. And then at the end of the summer, it all ended. And that's kind of the way it goes. I mean, you can up here, and then the next week you're down here. So it's a crazy, interesting business that way, but I still love it. I went and did a play at the Roxy, which is this club on Hollywood Boulevard, which is pretty famous. Rock and roll place, and it was called White Trash Wins Lotto, and I played Axl Rose in a Gilbert and Sullivan style operatic musical about the 1980s rock and roll scene. And this is me after the show, so I look a little sweaty, but I think you will notice a friend of mine there. Ah, who's that? Neil Patrick Harris! And that's Rita, she was in the show too. Yeah, and this was before Neil was a huge star. It was after Doogie Howser. And right around this time, he was doing Rent, touring and doing musicals and stuff. And this is before he became the Neil that we know him to be. But he was a nice kid. So did that play, and that play helped me with a bunch of other stuff. And I was lucky enough to book this really cool movie, which you may or may not have heard of, called Mulholland Drive, directed by David Lynch. And so I got to be in that. That's me over here. Over there. Because obviously it's me. This was a really weird, it's a movie, but it was meant to be an ABC TV show, and it was deemed at that time too violent for ABC. Now, at this day and age, no, I mean, it could be on ABC Family at this point. But it was a really weird movie. It's not a great movie. You kind of have to love it from scene to scene as opposed to the whole thing, because it's very convoluted and confusing. But I showed up thinking it was going to be just like extra work, and it turns out it was kind of like a featured bit with the trailer, couple-day shoot, singing, and all that stuff. So it was really great for me. It went to the Cannes Film Festival, and they used our photos as advertising, and I'm like, this is awesome. So things were going good. Voiceovers was kind of staying steady, but not a lot of big stuff at that time. Still doing, I think, the Bleach and the Naruto and stuff like that. Not too long ago, I did this gig through voiceovers, through people I knew in the voiceover world, and they had a friend over at the Jay Leno show. I don't know if it was called The Tonight Show or the Jay Leno show, but they wanted some people that knew how to sing to do the introduction for Betty White's birthday. And that's what I got to do. It was quite amazing to be on the Tonight Show and to meet Betty White, who's, I mean, she's more lively than any of us. She's crazy, crazy, crazy amazing. So that was really fun. And then voiceover started up again. What kind of happened, like in 2008, you know, when we had, if you guys know, the financial struggle, you know, in the country and stuff, a lot of shows left LA. A lot of shows, voiceover stuff and anime, went to Canada, went out to Texas, went to right-to-work states where they could charge less for voiceover actors and stuff. So it was really slow for a long period of time in LA. And that's when we all started doing other things, you know. Uber was not around at that time, but I've done it. Not too long ago I did this guy, and I have no idea what he sounds like. Does anyone watch this show? Sailor Moon?
Apparently I have a friend that watched it for free, but she's not here, so we're gonna rub this in her face later.
Please do. Please rub it in collective faces. It's the weirdest thing. So this is the original animation from the original show that they have redubbed twice now. This is the second redubbing of the show. So I got to play this character. He was fun. He had a weird relationship with his sister, and then I think he got eaten by a tree. Something like that. I don't know. Like I said, I just show up, and then, you know, I do the lines, and then I'm like, I see a tree that's eating someone. Now they are doing... What's happening? I am doing, is it Sailor Moon something crystal?
Yeah.
Sailor Moon the Dark Crystal, is that what it is? No? Crystal Light, Sailor Moon Crystal Light? Okay.
Crystal Light.
And I think that's a no. But that's a brand new animation, and I'm sure it'll be nicer than this. And then, of course, this guy came along and destroyed my throat. Right? But if you choose the wrong one, oh my gosh, you guys! So this was just a video game that I auditioned for. I didn't know much about it. And I went in, read it, and they're like, it's this panda, and he makes people kill themselves. I'm like, oh yeah, I do that all the time. Read the part, got it, didn't really know that much about it, recorded it, was cool. Then another game came along, and games pay much better than shows. We love getting games, it's really fun, and it's a one-off, it's nice and quick and stuff. So then I did another game, and I think I did a third game. The show has since moved to Texas. I don't live in Texas, so I'm not doing the series of Monokuma. I just did the game of Monokuma. And I'm actually kind of glad, because I just don't think that my throat could take it. I mean, it's hard enough. When you're doing video games, you're trashed. When you're doing all those kill efforts, you know, and I'm like, all right, this is a small kill effort, a medium kill effort, and a large kill effort, and go. Beep, 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 and you do it. And then it goes on and on and on and on. So by the end of the voiceover session, you're really trashed. I've had to cancel a voiceover session the next day after a video game record because I was just like, hamburger. So I love Monokuma, and everyone knows him. I've never seen the game. I had to do a convention not too long ago, a press convention to announce, they had all the Japanese people and stuff, to announce this third or fourth game. And I had only done the recording session, so I didn't really know much about it and what to talk about. So there's me at night, like, YouTubing, like, what the hell happens? What is this? And you know they have people playing it, what's that called? Twitch. But I couldn't find that either, I didn't know about that, so I'm just like YouTubing, and everything was in Japanese, I couldn't find the dub, or it was subtitled, so it was crazy.
You'd also just look at, like, Let's Plays.
What's that?
Let's Plays.
Let's Plays?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's,
Or playthroughs.
yeah.
See, you guys know everything. I don't know all this stuff. And this only happens when they're like, hey Brian, we need you to be at a convention tomorrow. Can you please talk about, you know, your character arc? I'm like, I was there for a day, I don't know. I don't know if you guys have seen this guy, but he's really fun. I'm not sure he's coming back, but I wish he would. Mr. White. Now, let's be honest. Mr. White is kind of creepy, right? He runs this, like, antique shop, and he has all these boys over for tea. Like, I don't get it. It's weird. But he's a fun character to play because of it. You know, his voice is kind of like this, and he's very charactery and musical in his voice. But it's not all this high-pitched stuff that I'm used to doing, so it's nice to play him. And I think we did season 1. We're still waiting for season 2, which could happen. It exists in Japan, but it may not make it here. You know, it all comes down to toys. When I was doing this first season, they didn't announce, I think we did 12 and 12 or something like that, and we released the first 12 and then waited till Christmas time to see if the toys sell. And it really does work. I mean, that's how they judge it, how they base it. It depends on toys, it depends on you guys following on Twitter and Facebook, talking about it, all that stuff. That'll determine whether a show returns for a second season. So that's a great thing for you guys to know, how much fandom or whatever really affects your shows. And write-in campaigns and all that stuff. If you guys know of an anime in Japan that's not here, start talking about it, you know, posting all that stuff. Ah, yes. Walker. Poor guy. I mean, he needs a girlfriend. That's right. I mean, so I'm actually going to record this Tuesday, going back to season 2, recording this for season 2. And this is a weird show, the way they write this. The producer is very, very attuned to Japanese culture and lore and what things mean and stuff, and therefore it really slows down the recording process because she's very, very specific about the script and the translation, and if something's not working, we like futz with it in the session, you know, and the session goes on and on and on and on. And I guess that's good, but sometimes I wonder if she's holding on too much to the Japanese lore and colloquialisms and stuff, and not let it appeal more to the audience that's watching it. You know what I mean? So who knows? But it takes forever. But he's a cool cat. This guy right now. Are you guys watching Doraemon on Disney XD? Yeah, I love this show. And I just found out that the feature film that we debuted at the Japanese film market called Stand By Me Doraemon, it's kind of a Pixar-style animation. You know, it's different than what you see on TV. That should be coming to the US. It got picked up by every country in the world except the US right now. And the reason is, it's being broadcast by Disney, but they didn't produce it. So it's kind of the ugly stepchild to them. You know, they know it's popular, so they want to get the money, but they're not pushing it as much as they normally would if it was something that they produced. So he's a cool cat. I love him. He's so mean. He's so rude, and he's really well written and funny and stuff like that. What was I going to talk to you about? Oh yeah. So this is an interesting thing that happens to me all the time. I get an audition for something, and sometimes you can do an audition at home, you know, and record it and send it off. And so I'll record it and send it off to the producers or whatever. And this particular incident happened with Disney, and it was for a new Disney show with original animation. So it was going to be great. So I do it. It's a lot of comedy. It's an English accent, because they mentioned that they kind of wanted an English accent, whatever. And I send it off, and I get a call back to go to the Disney studios for a callback. So you get there, and they're like, great, thanks, Brian. Here you go, let me just adjust this mic for you, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, perfect. Okay, so we want it just like your audition, but no accent. So, I don't know if you guys know this, but if you've built your audition around a certain thing, like that's the teeth that you built it on, you know, is the accent, then the jokes don't necessarily work, and the timing doesn't necessarily work. So, and they're like, and record. So I just bombed. And this happens all the time. It happened when I did a Disney show called Imagination Movers, a TV show for Disney, and I played an Aladdin, a genie. His name wasn't Aladdin, but he was a genie like Robin Williams. So that's how I auditioned, doing all these different voices and all that stuff. And I booked the job and went to New Orleans to film the show, and we're on set on an in makeup and costume. And the director's like, yeah, we don't want all those voices, just pick one that you like and do the scene. And they're setting the cameras and the lights and stuff. And that kind of like, talk about spinning through your Rolodex of what do I do, what do I choose, what's funny. That was really tough. It turned out well, but it was scary as heck, really scary as heck. So I've got a little example of my my demo here that I played in the other panel. But this just gives you an idea of, you know, when you're doing a voice demo, it's about a minute and a half long. You try to get as many voices as you can in to show people what you could do, what your range is and stuff. And this is just a little something I threw together.
Life became exactly what it was before I met Guillemot. Kazu still made bad jokes, and Miss Nami gave too much homework.
You're on the island of misfit toys.
This tropical playground is a secluded getaway of white sandy beaches and crystal clear lagoons.
That's right, you lily-living lubbers. Put your backs into it, I begar.
The master is not here presently. May I ask, is this the party to whom I'm speaking?
I ask you now to reverse this hex that's on this girl of such opposite sex.
Samantha, I do hate to say I told you so. I only did it in your best interest.
I'm telling you, Captain, I don't see hide nor head of them.
We're doomed. No, you're just saying that.
I swear to all things gorgeous, if I ever got my thighs into just one of those, I'd give up Danish. Well, yeah, for a week.
Sometimes that's a very fine line, Chief.
Is it door number 1, door number 2, or the box that Jay is bringing down the aisle? Oh, I'm sorry. You should see your face.
Monsters are the most interesting people.
Ooh, somebody stop me.
Oh, you better stop touching that, or you're gonna get a rash.
I shall not stop until I've returned all my bottles and cans to an approved depository, for I am Rummage the Recyclable!
Not only is the treatment safe, it's efficacious. Flirtatious. Look it up. I've got it! We'll be right back after these messages.
I mean, crazy, insane, bipolar personality. You have to be insane to do voiceovers. So that's just an example. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, if you guys are even aware of this. Who knows, that's my favorite subject, who knows about Tales of Symphonia? You guys, then you know that I am hated for playing Lloyd Irving, right? Do you guys know this?
No.
Oh, it's awesome.
I love Lloyd. You were my favorite voice actor.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really great. You need to get the word out there, start a letter writing campaign. So, the people that had seen this game before, which I didn't know existed, whoever it was that played him before was awesome and whatever. It's great. But I, again, got called for a job. For whatever reason, the company could have moved, he could have asked for too much money, he wasn't available, whatever. So I booked this job called Tales of Symphonia playing Lloyd Irving. I've done 3 games since as him. And I'm Googling myself or whatever. We sometimes do that to make sure that all the information about us is correct, going to IMDb or whatever. And I start reading all this stuff. What the heck did they do to blah, blah, blah? I hate Brian Beacock, da, da, da. So, I mean, any press is good press, so I kind of think it's funny, you know what I mean? So a friend of mine, and this has been going on for a long time, because I did Tales of Symphonia, the first one, Radiant Mythology or whatever, a while ago. But a friend of mine, not too long ago, she goes, "Do you know that Hitler hates you?" What? Yeah, exactly. I'm like, sorry, my cell phone's being weird. What did you say? She goes, "Yeah, have you seen the video of that Hitler hates you?" So, have you guys seen the video? It's from that movie, and it's the actor playing Hitler, and it's all subtitled, and they're in the war room or whatever, and Hitler's screaming, and the girl's crying, and he orders everyone out of the room, and the subtitling has to do with whatever topic or concept they're talking about for this particular dub. Well, there's one about me playing Lloyd Irving, and Hitler's screaming. He's like, "What kind of name is Beacock anyway?" And he goes on, and it's the funniest thing I've ever seen. And honestly, like, I thought I had made it. I thought I had arrived. Like, I am famous now. This is brilliant. So you have to Google it. It's the funniest thing you'll ever see. It doesn't bother me. Not everyone's going to love you. Not everyone's going to hate you. But I just thought that someone, are you okay? That someone spent this much time doing it. I mean, either has a lot of time on their hand, really hates me, or, I mean, it's a tribute, you know what I mean? That kind of venom is beautiful to me. So look it up. I think it's really great. So I'm going to open up to just a couple questions before we cut out of here. Does anybody have anything? Yes?
Can you post some of the Dwarven Vows?
Now who?
The Dwarven Vows.
What's this?
Lloyd Irving.
I know nothing from Lloyd Irving. Honestly, I mean, like I said, I recorded it 3 years ago for like a day. I don't remember anything about it. Except that, I mean, if I do it, I might get shot. Yeah?
Did they make you voice any other characters in that game?
It's possible I could have done a utility, but I don't remember. And if I did, it was very little because I remember Lloyd being alive.
They did, in the first game, the voice actor they had voiced one of the characters in the village that he was in, and you could tell it was him.
Oh, is that right? Well, then that's an issue with the director and the engineer and the producer and stuff. And sometimes they get down to the wire where they don't have any more people to be brought in. They're all out of money, so they have to use the same actor to fill up all the open spots that they have. Did I see another question anywhere? Yes?
Okay, so, why did you put Shima there? What else you said?
You guys, this is a really funny thing. So I've never done PowerPoint before, and I was really excited to make PowerPoints, and I made them for all my panels here. And it literally was, this computer it's got like chipmunks in there running on treadmills. Like, it is ready to die. And so it was a matter of me just not finishing all my photo uploads and stuff, because I love Shima from Blue Exorcist. He's really fun. And it's actually a really great film. If you haven't seen the feature film, they did a great job. They spent tons of money on the orchestra. It's beautiful. It's a really, really cool movie. Yes? I have not. I know who Todd is, but that's another thing, you know, we always work alone. The only time I see people is when we're crossing paths, signing out or signing in for the recording session. I just saw Mona Marshall, who plays Doraemon, a couple weeks ago, and I haven't seen her in maybe 10 years, and we've been on a lot of shows together. So she's looking good. Anybody else? No? Yes?
Do you remember playing Riddles from Code Geass?
Absolutely. I remember the studio I was in. The studio doesn't exist anymore, but he was really fun. And again, I hadn't seen much of that show, Code Geass, but someone was saying yesterday that the show was really like intense and emotional, right?
Oh, yeah.
But my character wasn't. He was a goofball. My character's always a goofball. Oh, right, or he's a panda bear that makes you kill each other. Whatever. All right, guys. Thank you so much. It has been a pleasure meeting you guys all, and I will see you at the closing ceremonies. Bye-bye.